everyone, welcome back to the homestead. It is a beautiful spring day and today I'm really excited because we're going to do our first garden tour of the season. I actually got video footage this morning before the sun came up because I knew it was going to be bright and sunny today. It's a little bit difficult to film in the bright sunlight. So I'm just going to kind of walk you through our garden from the greenhouse but cut in the video clips that I took this morning. And if you're new to our channel, we are a family of 9 living on 20 acres in the Ozarks of Missouri. And today's tour is going to be of our kitchen garden that started about 9 years ago. It's a space that's got a lot of perennials, a lot of fruit. We've got actually a small orchard in it, some berry bushes, lots of herbs, medicinal and culinary. But then we also have 10 fairly good sized annual beds that we plant our annual crops in each year. And because it's early in the season, we don't have a whole lot of food growing out there yet. Some of the beds are empty or in process, but all the perennial areas are taking off and quite beautiful. So hope you enjoy this tour today. So coming out our front door, heading into the garden, the first thing we come to is our new grow bed that we just actually did a video on last week. It's a Vegeta grow bed and it's full of lots of greens that we want to keep shaded through the summer so that they don't bolt. So we've got some kale and lettuce in there. And then we've also got a few pots with some peonies coming up. They're not in bloom yet, and those are just to protect the stairway down into our root cellar. We've also got Johnny Jump Ups growing in a protective line of pots on the top of the root cellar, also for safety. There are blueberry pots, and the Johnny Jump Ups are just so beautiful right now in those. Then just past our root cellar stairs, we've got a little in-ground bed, and right now there's some pretty tulips and some fritillary, some Johnny Jump Ups, and then we've also got some peas hidden in there that grow up that trellis. And then from there, there's actually a crack in our sidewalk that has caused a problem. A lot of water runs into our first large annual grow bed there. So I created kind of a little rock structure to slow the water down so that that bed doesn't get flooded out. In that bed, I tried to use some paper and actually pulled up some of our cover crop of wheatgrass to put on the paper as a weed barrier. But the very next day we had huge winds come through and blew a lot of the paper around. So I've got to replace some of that paper. But in between those rows of paper, we've got onions planted. We have some large bok choy, some yellow heart bok choy, and some purple lady bok choy that's really kind of hard to see against the color of the dirt. But once those get bigger, they're so beautiful. And then we've also got a few different varieties of kohlrabi. Next we come to our butterfly garden area. We've got some cobblestone and all around it is a lot of plants that draw in butterflies. It's really beautiful. There's not a lot in bloom for the butterflies right now. It's too early for that. There's still some pretty daffodils, and the burgundy glow ajuga is super vibrant right now. It's really pretty. Next we come to another one of the large annual beds. I've got a noisy cow in the background. And we've got various things planted in there. We've got some spinach and beets that are a little bit too small to see, and then we've got a variety of different lettuces. Some of our favorite lettuce varieties are Merlot, Green Sweet Crisp Salanova, Red Batavia, Yeticule, Landis Winter. There's one other new one we're trying in there called Fusion. It's kind of a cross between a romaine style and a leaf lettuce, I believe. This is really the best time of year for a lettuce for us. I'm really excited to see those take off and be able to harvest for salads. Next we come to the white garden. All the hyacinths have pretty much died back, but we've got a new flush of white color coming from our candy tuft. And then this beautiful little primrose. It's more of a yellow color, but it's so beautiful right now. And we've still got some daffodils and various other white spring blooms that are going to pop up in that garden. It's kind of every week's a little different in the white garden. Things are coming and going. It's a lot of fun to watch it change and grow. Across from the white garden begins what I call our circle gardens. And the first one we come to is kind of more so a half circle. The centerpiece of that is going to be hardy hibiscus, but all around it we've got some perennial herbs and things. We've got our first bleeding heart of the season, which is really cute. We've got some fennel tucked in there, various alliums and spring bulbs, and just other perennials. Next we come to another perennial bed. It's got a Steady Eddie viburnum in the very middle, which is not showing yet. It's going to have nice white blooms on it. We've got some pretty peach tulips in there and other spring bulbs. And then we've got a geum called totally tangerine that's just about to bloom. It's got nice orangey peach colored flowers. So that whole bed's kind of a white, peach, and blue bed. And kind of in the middle of the whole circle garden space, we've got a really beautiful red bud in bloom right now. And just below that tree, we created a little bed that's got lots of perennial flowers in there. Some hellebore that's really beautiful right now. There's some hostas just peeking through. Lots of fun things in that bed. And the red bud bed kind of marks the division line between the side garden and the backyard garden space, which is very new. We just put it together in the fall of last year. We've got a few fun things happening there, although it's still just a very new space. I created a little purple bed that's got some hyacinths and rock cress that's growing. We're going to have some purple tulips opening up in there soon, so it's kind of just all the purples. We have 2 beds in this back garden space that have got some fruiting plants. Each of those beds has 1 pixwell gooseberry, a serviceberry, and a blueberry plant. And then we've got some other fun things tucked in. We've got a couple different 9-bark bushes, I believe they are. I can't remember the names of them. I'll try and put them up on the screen. But one's got really bright yellowy leaves and the other one's more burgundy. I'm hoping to fill up that space with more of our tea herbs like anise, hyssop, chamomile, things like that. And the centerpiece for the whole backyard is going to be a pergola that we hope to build for our rows. And it's going to have cobblestone underneath, so it'll be a little sitting area. And on either side of that space, we've got kind of little half circle beds, and I transplanted some of our ajuga that turned back to the original color that's no longer burgundy glow. I transplanted a lot of that into those beds. We've also got some grape hyacinths, and those beds both have a hardy hibiscus that's not showing anything yet, but in the summertime those will take over those beds. And I created the backyard to be symmetrical for the most part. There's a few places where we had to kind of vary it a little bit, but if you step out our back door and walk through that backyard space toward the side garden, it's all symmetrical and everything's going to be mirrored side to side from the centerpiece of the pergola. So coming back around from the back garden into the main garden area, we've got a citrus plant. It's a trifoliate orange called Flying Dragon. So it's a hardy citrus that we have not gotten fruit off of yet. It is in bloom though, and I don't know if we're gonna have another frost. So we may actually get to taste the fruit from that tree for the first time in about 5 years since we planted it. And then just past that tree, we've got kind of a little horseshoe that's got a bunch of honeyberry bushes, and those are full of blooms this year. They did pretty well last year. We got quite a few honeyberries from them, but this year it looks like they're going to be loaded. So that's really exciting because they are kind of replacing blueberries for us. Blueberries just have not done well for us. Our soil is not acidic enough. That's why I ended up moving our blueberry plants for the most part into pots so I could control the soil pH a little bit easier. But these honeyberries love our soil and are doing really well. So next we come to our 6 large annual beds that are all in a line, and we've got cardboard laid out between them right now because we're going to be laying down pea gravel, and eventually we're hoping to put cobblestone between each of those beds, just like in between the beds closer to the house. But for this year it's just going to be pea gravel. And in the first bed, we don't have anything planted yet. We've got to weed that and hopefully get that ready today or tomorrow for our broccoli and cauliflower plants that are ready to go out. The next annual bed we come to is a potato bed. It's going to be our second harvest of potatoes. We planted Kennebec and we planted them a little bit deeper, and so they're meant to be harvested later in the season. They're a really good storage potato, and so those will be our second harvest of potatoes. The next bed we come to has our kale crop from the fall. Most of them have bolted and gone to seed, and so we still are harvesting a little bit from them, but we'll be pulling those out pretty soon and replacing them with, I'm not sure what we're going to replace those with, but some kind of summer crop will be going in their place. The other end of that bed, we just planted some onion sets and some carrots that have not started to sprout yet. Hopefully those will sprout soon. In the next bed we planted our first harvest of potatoes. We did a red potato. Those we planted pretty shallow. They should be ready to harvest sometime in June or early July, and those will be the ones we eat first. They are not as good for storage. And we did try a new variety in that bed as well. It's some kind of purple potato, so we'll see how those go. The next bed was just prepared yesterday for planting chard. So a friend and I laid down some feed bags to help smother out the weeds because it was a pretty weedy bed and I had a tiny bit of soil left to help hold that paper down. We'll just poke holes in the paper and plant our little charred starts into the holes in the paper. And I forgot to mention, for our potato beds, I didn't put any kind of weed barrier down. Our hope is to actually put another good 2 or 3 inches of composted horse manure down, but we haven't gotten that yet. There was a tractor issue. So we're still waiting on the composted horse manure. Once we get that, we will put that down in the potato beds, and that'll help smother out some of those weeds and just give another good layer of soil to the potatoes, which they're gonna need. All of these annual beds that we're walking through now have new forms around them. So we've got to add soil to all of them. 1, just to add nutrition back into the soil, and then 2, just to bring it up more level with the new forms that have been put in. Then the next annual bed has our cabbages in it. And the day after I planted the cabbages, we had heavy winds. Just was a really windy early spring for us. So the poor little cabbage plants got pummeled by wind for actually not just one day, but multiple days in a row. And I thought I had lost most of them, but some of them are really bouncing back, and so I'm hopeful we're still gonna get a few cabbages. Then we come to another perennial bed, and it also has new forms. We kind of redid that whole bed. And right now the Amazing Grace Phlox is in bloom, which is so beautiful. It's a plant that I've wanted for years and was finally able to get last year, and this year it's looking so beautiful. I've got our little one here now. Abby's joining me for a little bit here. She says she's gonna be really quiet, so. So this year along our driveway we formed up some sidewalks, and we're hoping to pour cement all along the edge of our driveway between the driveway and the garden, and that's because we get a lot of floodwaters coming off our pasture and down our driveway, and they exit through our garden and just bring a lot of extra water through our garden that we don't need, and weed seed. And so we've so this year I'm really glad we got those forms up, and hopefully we'll be able to pour cement, if not this year, then next. And along that whole stretch is going to be hopefully 2 grape arbors. We only have 1 grape presently that's actually just flopping all over the place right now, so we've got to come up with some kind of temporary arbor for that until we get the cement poured. And we've got a wisteria that we're also going to be putting another cobblestone pad and pergola up for. And if you continue to follow that pathway, it takes you to the back of the garden where we've got our composting area. We've got a muscovy sitting right now. Hopefully she's gonna hatch out some little muscovies here soon. We've got some construction going on back there as well. We're still working on forming pathways and redoing some of the beds where the cants have worn out. We do have 1 single arch trellis where we're going to be planting some annuals. It mostly is an orchard area. We've got a couple peach trees. We've got a couple pear trees that are blooming nicely this year, so hopefully we'll have more pears this year. We created a little sitting area that our littlest ones especially like to play around. Alright, so now I'm going to actually go back to the area just past our large annual beds. It's where our apple tree orchard begins, and so we've got 4 apple trees, and it looks like this is the first year that they're all blooming. So of the 4, we've gotten apples off of 2 of them, but the other 2 we've never gotten apples from. One of them is a Gravenstein, which is my all-time favorite apple. I am super excited to maybe get Gravenstein apples this year. And to the left of the apple tree orchard, we have 2 perennial beds where we've got some daffodils, some lemon balm coming back, and other perennials tucked in. We've got our double arch trellis. Right now it's still a work in progress. We've been trying to clear out the mass weeds under it. Last year we put some of our compost from our chicken yards in there, and those beds just got totally overtaken by weeds. So lesson learned there. But we do have 1 small patch of radishes planted in there. And if you go all the way through the double arch trellis, come to where we've got some chives just about to bloom. There's some lavender in those beds and various other perennials, snow and summer. And our creeping phlox this year just took off. It's so amazing. Really beautiful. So then if you swing around and head back toward the house, that's where we've got a whole row of strawberry beds. And we plant our garlic in the middle of our strawberry beds. So we've got 4 beds with strawberries. Some of them are starting to bloom, which is exciting to see. And then at the very edge of that side of the garden, we've got a bed that's needing to be replaced. It's old cants that have broken down. That bed is full of walking onions. So they're a perennial onion that comes back year after year. And then we've got creeping thyme planted in that bed as well. This whole side of the garden is bordered by our turkey yard, which is really fun. I love having the turkeys right next to the garden there. We're able to toss them a lot of our weeds and scraps from the garden. They provide a good barrier to all of the weeds and things on the outside, which is nice. And then the last area that I'm going to show you today is where we've got the girls' beds. Biddle has a bed that we gave her, I think she started it last year. She's got some columbine, some sweet violets, garlic planted in there. Lots of little things, kind of random at this point, but she's 6 years old. And it's just really fun for her to have that space. And Abby girl, you have your own garden too, huh? She has a little piece of garden space and she's got lots of little things planted in there as well. Mostly flowers, huh? Do you like your little garden space?
Yeah.
And then just past their little garden spaces is Esther's corner of the garden. She's got the very back corner and she just does a wonderful job taking care of things. She's got a lot of perennial herbs and flowers and spring bulbs. She's got a cherry tree. Underneath her cherry tree right now, she's got lots of spring blooms, a few weeds that she hasn't quite gotten to, but she's been working really hard to keep her area weeded. It's the area of the garden that gets the most weed seed deposited when the rain waters come through. So she really has to work hard to keep her garden nice. She's got some really beautiful little snowdrops in bloom right now. I think it's the only place in the garden that we have them is in her space, and I've planted them many different places in my garden, but they just never seem to grow. They grow for her though. Well, I think those are the highlights of our kitchen garden. This year we don't have anything happening in the front garden or the main crop garden yet. Those spaces we probably won't be growing a lot in this year because we're going to be dedicating a lot of time to redoing infrastructure, and in the main crop area we're going to be creating infrastructure for the first time. So we're going to have to pack as much as we can into our kitchen garden this year, and probably won't be able to grow quite as much as we have in the past because we won't be planting much in our other two garden spaces this year. So thanks for joining me today in the garden and in the greenhouse. You say thanks for joining us?
Thanks for joining us.
We do have a few thank yous to give before we go.
Hey guys, I just want to say a big thank you to whoever got me all these new tools.
Let's see what you got.
Got a crowbar, a new finish hammer,
Nice.
a whole set of pliers, and a new screwdriver. I mean, this isn't just any screwdriver because this can come out and you can put different bits in and stuff. It's pretty nice.
Cool. And a bag to put it all in.
Yep.
Awesome. Very cool.
Yep. And for this new keyboard.
That's going to come in handy.
Yep.
If you would please like, share, and subscribe if you haven't already. That really helps us out. It helps grow our channel. Thank you so much to those who comment regularly and share our videos. We really appreciate that. As always, thank you so much to our patrons who make these videos possible. Until next time, we pray blessings over you and yours. And whatever you do it with your whole heart.
Little girl heart.